I gotta take this banner. Okay. Hello, everyone. Let me turn off the background. There we go.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. You are now tuned in to yet another installment of Shop Black Podcast with LaShawn, aka the Waistbeads,
and Deuce Terry.
And today's episode is really exciting as we are launching into the MLK Now, which is in a few short days.
Right.
For those of you who are tuning in, you all know that we are bridged together with the BOB Rewards Club. So we definitely want to make sure you know what that's all about and make sure you get an opportunity to join the club. And you can do that while you are watching or whenever you get a minute. So thank you all so much for joining today. We have some wonderful guests. We're still waiting on a few more to join, but we're going to work with what we have today. And I do appreciate you all tuning in. So let me get some banners up on the screen. So we want you to know that you can always join the BOB Rewards Club. And that is the website below. So once you go to the BOB Rewards Club, you'll be able to see all of the information about the club. You will see that we have a directory and that you can be a part of that directory for only $25 a year. $25 a year is going to get you discounts, early information, insider information on when the events are going to be, vendor opportunities, and all of the above for the events that we have, including the one that's coming up this week, which is going to be the MLK Now, and that is January the 13th.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm. With the BFAC membership, that will also get you in as a member, but also a guest on this podcast that streams in over 8 locations. So we are getting the word out. You'll also be able to be blasted on an email that has thousands and thousands of recipients. So your information will be going out there too.
That's right. All right. Do we want to go ahead and bring in our guests, or do we want to try to give a little time for anyone else to come in?
Well, we definitely want to do that. We still hadn't talked about the MLK Now just yet.
Okay.
So let's go over to the website and talk about that. I have to go to the share screen.
It's on.
So as you can see, we have a great event focus. Those are going to be the talking points and the things, the events and activities that are going on. Of course, you'll be able to be amongst renowned speakers, live entertainments, performing arts. There's going to be some activities for the children. It is a free event. Over 70 Black owned businesses, food, beverage giveaways, and the BOB annual awards ceremony. So be ready for all of that. This one is taking place in Iowa this year. And as you know, BOB is located in Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and now South Dakota. And so, if you are interested in opening up a chapter in your area, you can definitely let us know. Deuce and I will be working on opening up one here, right here where we are in the Charlotte, North Carolina area.
I think there should be like a new rule for 2024, wherever one or more are gathered, there should be food trucks.
Absolutely. I like that idea. So, yeah, so we have some great events coming ahead. Before we bring our guest on, we would like for you guys to tell us what city and state you're checking in from. We see we do have some viewers today, so we definitely appreciate you. Let us know what city and state.
Drop a comment. Let us know where you are.
Yes, we want to know because, the more viewers we get in other cities and states, then, maybe we can have the conversation about getting a BOB nonprofit in your area, which expands the network. This is a great opportunity for virtual vending. Of course, again, with the benefit online products, you can actually bring your products into the BOB website and have that as an additional outlet for your wares.
And if you just so happen to catch this video after the live, if you see it online, make sure you share and tell your friends about it. Subscribe to the YouTube page or the LinkedIn, wherever you may see this on your platform. Make sure you share, and spread the word.
Yes, yes. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and bring on our guest, Selena. And I didn't ask about the last name, Carew. So if I am saying, okay, I said that right. All right. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. You have a very, very decorated bio. Tell us about yourself and thank you for coming on.
Well, first and foremost, I would like to start by thanking you, LaShawn and Deuce, for the opportunity to be on Shop Black today. Telling you a little bit about myself, I will say that I give the Lord the glory for all the opportunities that I have had the privilege to have embarked on. Was born in Iowa, was cultured in West Africa, Sierra Leone. So at age 2, I relocated to Africa. So resided there for 17 years, and I am multilingual. I speak about 6 languages. Returned to the United States, pursued my undergraduate in finance and business management, and recently attained my master's in marketing management and communications.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So currently, I serve in multiple capacities. I am an elected council member for Iowa State Extension. In addition to that, prior I was working with Kirkwood and Iowa Works, but I am now an independent contractor for Kirkwood and Iowa Works. My priority is my Black-owned business.
Now, is that the union? I'm sorry to interrupt you. The Iron Works, is that the union?
Iowa Works is a workforce capacity that basically helps with unemployment. It helps place employers with job seekers. There is a partnership with the community college where they also provide training and skill building to make sure that they could successfully integrate individuals with sustainable long-term employment.
Oh, love it. Okay. I thought you were saying iron, but it was Iowa. Got it. Okay. So with and then you have other things going on too, because I think we have you down for also your shuttle services.
Right.
Correct. So I do own the only Black-owned gas station in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Own a franchise of U-Haul, franchise of Starbucks, Western Union. And recently, about 2 years ago, I included transportation and logistics with reference to shuttling over 50 immigrants to and from work. And so hence Sierra Shuttle services.
Love it.
Can you tell us more about the self-service Starbucks? Is that correct?
Yes,
It's
yes.
very up to date, like technology wise.
Right.
Yes, it is amazing. It's a $20,000 franchise, very affordable. And literally it mixes the drinks exactly the same way every time. And so at that point you look at the costs benefits of not having to staff it. So when you go into my storefront, you will see we have U-Haul. So primarily there is a wait line for customers waiting to be served. And so that self
Right.
Starbucks is a way to get them engaged. They serve themselves and they pay at the counter, and we're able to get them through with renting the equipment and out the door.
Love it.
But it is very consistent, delicious quality coffee that you can truly enjoy and enjoy the experience of Starbucks without having to embark on the cost of the manpower of staffing it.
I love it. Love
Thank
that.
you.
Everybody loves Starbucks
Of course.
that I know.
Yes.
So tell us how you got connected with BOB and how it has been a benefit to you so far, because I've seen you post a lot about BOB and MLK.
Yes, yes. I believe that first and foremost, I want to give Michelle and Anthony Arrington a lot of kudos because there is a lot of legwork that has gone into planning this amazing event. The Bob Rewards Club is absolutely welcomed here in Iowa. I'm excited about the fact that we are creating awareness to the necessity for inclusivity. And so, really, at this junction, I have served as a community servant, as you can tell, in the city of Cedar Rapids. I have created programming to provide services for the underserved population. And I think with my article that was released on the 1st of January, it showcased one of the programs I created that was funded for $2 million, which was the PATHS program. And I had literally a waiting list of 90 applicants
Mm.
waiting to be integrated through skill building and networked with employers. Surpassing that, there was an opportunity where I foresee that some people just want to create their own. They want to be able to be a part of that ecosystem of entrepreneurs. And
Right.
so I created an Empower program, which it is called, but it basically was a 10-week program that created the fundamentals for entrepreneurs to start, launch, and expand their businesses. And so some of the food trucks that will be at this event were actually part of students who were in that program.
That's
And
amazing.
so thank you, thank you. And it's really the big picture is how can we get a piece of that pie?
Right.
How can we be a part of the change? You don't have to embark on carrying the load of the big picture of a change, but in your own capacity with your own talent, you can try to see how you can make incremental change in the community you find yourself.
Let me ask you this, because you're so into what you're doing and you are immersed in the economy, why do you think Minnesota, Iowa, South Dakota, and Wisconsin, why do you think those are some of the states that are so I don't want to say bad, but why are
Neglected.
African Americans so impoverished in
Right.
those states, and why is the incarceration rate so high for those areas? Any insight to that?
Great question.
Well, I think when you referenced my resume, you saw I was an offender employment specialist. So I was with the 6th Judicial District for over 6 years. So I worked with that specific community. And my heart goes to the community of rehabilitated citizens. So, with the big picture in mind, I do realize that we are minorities. I believe that when you look at the percentage of Black individuals in the states of Iowa or in the state of Minnesota, you'll realize that we're in that one digit, if any, maybe making it towards 2 digit, like 11%, about 8 to 11% of the community, right? And so what happens is that there is a certain level of comfortability or discomfortability when you're in that space of a minority. There is opportunities where access is unavailable to our individuals, to our minorities. And I think with big picture, The Bob Reward Club is really trying to create awareness. And I think the key thing is that we need to focus on access, because we realize that where there are minorities, there is a gap.
Right.
Where there is gap, there is disparity in reference to access to resources. So there are lots of resources in Iowa. Iowa is a social welfare state. It's got amazing resources, but you have to know how to access those resources. And I think the Bob Reward Club is going to create this forum where a few of us are going to be invested in truly being that one-stop shop to support in each other with accessing these resources. And hopefully we can now expand or increase equity in our community.
And that is that I was in Minnesota for one of the events, and I noticed the homelessness was absolutely. So you have this beautiful Minnesota skyline, beautiful downtown, and all these homeless people, and the way it gets so cold down there, it's like, how in the world, do they help these homeless people in 3-degree weather? So that was crazy for me. And then for you to say that the percentage of African Americans in those areas is in the barely in the double digits. How can we be the most incarcerated? Are we literally, by us going to jail, are we literally fueling that economy by being prisoners because of the privatized prisons and the funding and all this backhand money? And is that really what's going on
Keeping
in these
each other in
areas?
business.
I believe what's going on in this area is that so I will reference back to my culture in Africa, right? When you find yourself in a community where you don't feel like you are part of the big picture, or there is a breakdown in far as cultural barriers, it's hard for individuals to integrate, right? So if you were to go to Sierra Leone, West Africa, and your expectation of how you communicate, of how you integrate is different from their expectation of what you are supposed to behave, your mannerism, your actions. If there is a difference in that, then there is going to be kind of like a strain in a relationship with integrating in that community. So when you find the minorities here, specifically in like the state of Iowa, if there is a strain for them to integrate because of the shock of the cultural differences, most likely you will find situation where an individual might have maybe committed a crime, but not a crime of a huge gravity, but yet the penalty will be punitive.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to if it was another ethnicity, American Caucasian ethnicity, that might have committed the same crime, you cannot really see both being penalized equally.
Absolutely.
One is penalized more than the other, I would like to say. I'm trying to be politically correct, being that I serve in certain capacities that I do serve in. But I think with the big picture is individuals will have journeyed through their paths of lives, and we are all, different in our own ways and capacity. Big picture is we all have an opportunity to contribute to the community we find ourselves. One of the conversations I had while I was in correction was I challenged the status quo of individuals that were what we like to so-called say hustlers. I said, okay, so they're hustlers. They do have the ability and the aptitude to establish a business. How about we actually give them the orientation on how they could be tax-paying citizens?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
How can we challenge and legalize whatever forum, meet them where they're at, and get them to their next level? I mean, we have industries that are legally selling marijuana right now.
Yes.
So why are we incarcerating individuals that are in the streets? Because they're not tax-paying citizens.
Right.
So let's look at the big picture of meeting people where they're at and hopefully making them more equitable, sustainable, versus penalizing them punitively, locking them in the prisons. But yet we still have these different industries that are generating millions of dollars and owned by different demographic of people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's insane everywhere with that. Now, I want to roll back a little bit and kind of go back a little bit to your background. And the reason why is because Americans have this probably a misnomer viewpoint on where you're from, Sierra Leone. We know Sierra Leone over here without, probably having the proper education of Sierra Leone. We know it as the place that we get all of our diamonds. And so, and possibly one of the richest, mineral rich places in the world. But the pictures that we are given for that area over there don't, I guess it doesn't line up with, if that's the richest place, then why are the people there seemingly
like
so
most parts of
impoverished?
Africa and the Middle East. The media, the propaganda portrays to be that way for us not to know. And then once we go over there for ourselves, we're totally amazed.
Right.
You are absolutely right. So my father, Joshua Kerr, was actually a presidential candidate for Sierra Leone, West Africa. So my family is very embedded in politics. One of the things I will say is there's a lot of corruption. And so we see corruption here in the United States. It's a little different in the way it plays out in West African continent, or just in the African continent in general. Corruption is a different species on its own.
Yeah.
You talk about minerals. If it rains heavy, you can find diamond in the gutter. It is that rich. But yet, with the corruption of our governmental infrastructure, the money doesn't get filtered back into the community. It stays in the elite's pockets. And they have multiple houses in the Dubai, in Kuwait, in UK, and etc. And it continues to perpetuate itself generation and generations to come. And that's just unfortunate. You'll see individuals like us, the newer generations, we're looking to more or less create infrastructures that can empower the community. And so I say this to say, envision if you were to have a land in West Africa, Sierra Leone, like individual like me. Okay, so I have maybe about 380 acres of land. And so my next plan is that I will develop that land. I will actually sublease a portion of the land to the universities that I will partner with here in Iowa. And then I will create a study abroad program. Now, the sublease fund, I can take that into building condominiums. Then I could create basically a study abroad program that I could broker now that I've attained my master's, correct? Have those students go down there, they'll pay here in dollars. Now think about what funding or what finances you'll be able to create, what community you'll be able to develop within that structure or that village. Now the villagers have money because they have income, because now you are able to have condominiums, they're able to be the cooks, they're able to do the laundry, they're able to sell their produces, their goods. And now it's like an ecosystem that you're able to rebuild the infrastructure of that community. Now we will challenge the universities and say, how about you create a social work program here and develop a school? Let's do a teachers program, engineering. Let's create a manufacturing plant. Now we're producing products, we're canning goods in that community. We're creating workforce for that community. So it's really having individuals like us that have that innovative way of thinking to start thinking of how do we create an ecosystem that is able to be sustainable long term, that supersedes us when we're gone.
I love it. So that in essence is the solution, to have more forward thinkers that can eventually build up and then challenge the status quo eventually, but you kind of have to take steps to get to that point in order to do that. Or do you ever feel like, because I guess it's just so long rooted, because I mean, I don't want to have a sense of hopelessness, but it seems like how you say the corruption is it's just so deep and it runs so long. What do you see as a solution for that? Or I guess it's what you said, just the new generation, the forward thinkers coming forward, building new infrastructures around and giving people ways to make money, because obviously they don't make money mining diamonds in Sierra Leone. There's no money in that. But how are they made to do it if there's no money to be made from it?
And so again, when we look at the forward thinking aspect of things, it's really making sure that we create a blueprint that bypasses the government, a blueprint that serves the citizens directly,
Okay.
a blueprint that gives access to those citizens directly, a blueprint that addresses those smaller communities and develop those smaller communities one community at a time. Understanding that we cannot change the whole pie, but we could do it in increments. We could start in small communities and expand and change the whole country eventually.
Got it. So it's not anything that's going to be, of course, overnight, and it never really is. And it's the same here. You know, our corruption in Iowa and Wisconsin and Minnesota, South Dakota, here in Charlotte is so, you know, it's the same. The incarceration rates, and like you said, the crimes aren't meted out to match the punishment for, you know, people who look like us, you know, unfortunately. So that's just kind of what we're up against. But let's get back into the positive side of things.
I did want to ask a question. Well, it was a thought because it got my gears turning when she was speaking of it. Like you see a lot of celebrities or Black millionaires, they go to the African continents and build the schools and build the eco structures in that particular continent because, well, is it that much harder to do it in America? Are we, you know, blackballed or pushed out that we go to a place not particular where we feel obligated, where we feel home, where we feel the need and feel safe at home with our people to go do it in Africa versus so many obstacles and obstructions to try to do it
Red tape and
right in the city where you're from or the state that you're in.
So that's a very good question. And so, Deuce, the way I see it is, I want to do it in both communities. I am currently doing it in both communities. So when we talked about my capacity as an offender employment specialist, I challenged the status quo. I had employers coming into the halfway house, hiring reentry citizens, paying them $30 per hour, plus 401k, plus healthcare, plus transportation.
Opportunities they've never had before.
Never had before. Now, another thing that I found myself that I felt maybe I might have failed at is that financial literacy.
Mhm.
And
Once they
also
get
the
money,
aspect of, yes,
right.
and also the aspect of understanding the mental health. There has to be a focus on that.
Yes,
People
yes,
only know what they know. You cannot just give them this money. You cannot just give them this access without preparing them for
right.
the responsibilities that come with that ownership of
Like you said
resources.
before, they probably are born hustlers, but you have to meet them halfway and teach them how to be businessmen.
And that's when that program came into play. So with me, I felt like as I continue to serve my community, I try to build upon what lessons have I learned? What were the gaps that I might have missed in the first program or the second program?
Mhm.
How do I make sure I'm efficient moving forward? What are the outcomes? And what's the sustainability of the program overall? So that's a great question. So programming should be created in whatever community you find yourself. You should you should make an impact. You should leave your mark. So I'm here in Iowa, and I feel like there are so many opportunities. Access is the key. Creating access is my focus, and I keep basically opening those doors, knocking those doors, opening those doors, and bringing in a roster of people that I know could utilize and benefit from those resources. And then when I look at back home, I think retirement. What does that look like? Creating access back home and making sure that I'm able to use partnerships here and transfer and extend that to that community as well. So that community will equally have access to resources.
Love it. Now, having being the only Black or African American to have a gas station, why is that so hard to
It's a
get
big deal.
into? Yeah, yeah. Like, why is that not a thing there? You know, why are you such the minority to be able to accomplish that? Is that like a hard industry to get into?
Absolutely. It's an industry that is monopolized by bigger corporations. Um, I find myself always trying to catch up as far as
Mm.
changing of policies, requirements, because they always try to find ways to squeeze little guys out, right? And so I'm self-branded. I'm not owned by Shell. I'm not owned by Mobile or by Casey. I am Sierra Convenience.
Oh, wow.
And so I purchase my own gas. I manage my own requirements and expectation with the Department of Natural Resources. And when I look at my transportation as a dealer of U-Haul, I make my own price. So at the end of the day, I provide the convenience. And when you return your U-Haul truck, you pay for whatever price the gas is if you choose to gas at my store. But by purchasing at bulk, I'm able to sell gas to myself for my shuttle and transportation service, so that when there's scarcity, I'm able to maintain an affordable price to continue to help with integrating immigrants in the community, basically taking them to work and back from work.
That's brilliant. That's so brilliant.
I had another question. So, certain industries in America that's hard to get into alone, but being a minority and being Black and a Black woman at that, what were some of the obstacles or struggles that you went through in your entrepreneurial journey to get to this point?
So
one that specifically stands out thus far.
You know what, Deuce? I think there was one part of my introduction I didn't share with you. I started running my first business at age 13.
Oh, wow.
In Sierra Leone, West Africa. So my aunt was a professor at the university. And not only was she head of her department, but she had a fisheries, she had a gas station, a grocery store. And so with that said, she built that entrepreneurship spirit in me at age 13. So during the summers, I managed a business. I'll pick which one I want, and she will hold my hand and teach me. So when I came to Iowa and I had to establish ventures, I didn't see it as a challenge. Matter of fact, I saw it as an opportunity. An entrepreneur is always thinking about providing a solution. We come into a space, we identify a gap. And as long as we are providing a solution, we're not selling anything. There's a need for us to be in that space, in that room, around that table, having that conversation. Challenges are just paperwork. Everybody got to do them.
Right.
So sometimes I think when we look at it from the big picture, is really trying to just step into that space and making sure that you are confident that you should be in that space, and be a gentle observer of yourself and understand that there's going to be a learning curve.
Of course.
And just be willing to learn along the way, because it's just ever evolving.
Love it. That's great.
Great answer. Thank you.
Yes, that's very inspiring. So I don't know if we got way into it. What will you be doing specifically at the MLK Now 13? What will be your role, and what do you hope to get out of it?
I believe that in my role as a panelist, I will be challenged to bring some insight, more of innovative thinking along the line of how can we serve our community? What are the gaps that we find in specific communities? We talked about the incarcerated community. I have served in that community, and I have a lot of partners within the state of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that I know literally are phone calls away in reference to collaborating to create programming, to extend services to that specific demographic of people. We talked about entrepreneurs. How do we serve them? How do we provide access? I think the Barbara Reward Club is going to be that one-stop shop to provide access and resources to entrepreneurs. We did not have access to them. Now we have access to them. Now that we know, how do we continue to expand upon these resources, create more access, create more awareness, host more events, and hopefully be able to impact the minority community on a bigger scale. So I think really it's just coming around the table, answering some challenging questions, challenging ourselves on providing solutions, and making sure that it doesn't just stop in a conversational piece, that there's some action that follows, and that we're able to revisit this next year or following years and say, what did we take away? What was the impact? How did we measure it? And what more can we do? Because there's always more to be done.
Absolutely. How did you and Michelle actually connect?
Through Mr. Anthony Arrington.
Okay.
Now he knows everybody.
I love it. I love it.
Yes.
They sound like they work in the same fields. forced job employment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Anthony has his hands in that sector a bit as well. Have you been on Anthony's podcast yet?
I have not had the privilege to be on Anthony's podcast yet, but we have talked about it. So I will be prioritizing that after our Bob Reward event.
I love to see it. So with the shuttle service, I don't think we talked a whole lot about that. No, that is here, and that is shuttling the unemployed, the people that you are helping. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 2022, I had served in, 2018, I served in the capacity as an executive board member for Willis Daily Shelter. Willis Daily Shelter is a shelter that addresses homelessness for men and families in the community. So I was an executive board member, and I had challenged the aspect that nonprofits should also think about an access of creating an operational system that generates money. And so they asked in what capacity and what will that look like? And I recommended, what about transportation? What about employment? Because if you've got homelessness as your focus, then don't we want to think about integrating these homeless communities back to stability?
Mm-hmm.
You have housing, but it's not necessarily just, it's not just the grant. So how about we work on employment? So we strategized employment, we got funding, we have a Willis Daily workforce now that provides employment. And then one of the relationships from corrections, which was Frontier Co-op, I brokered a relationship with them so that they're able to hire some of those residents of Willis Daily. And transportation was built into that. And so I utilized my experience from managing the U-Haul services to create a framework for that transportation. So in about 2021, there was going to be resettlement for the Afghanistan community and the Congolese community. So I was actually invited and pulled around the table to be a part of that conversation, because they were looking at, okay, we're going to have the immigrants settle in. We know that language is a barrier, but we know that they do have something to contribute. They can work, but we know that transportation is also going to be a barrier. How are they going to get to and from work? They're not going to learn the language fast enough to buy cars, to be able to drive and commute. And so I was asked, was that an area of interest? And I said, absolutely. So within 2 weeks, I had purchased a 29 passenger, a 25 passenger, a 12, and a 7. And I was given 50 riders. And so basically I pick them up from their doorstep, take them to work, and bring them back to their doorstep.
So, like you said, entrepreneurship is about having a resolution. Right? A solution,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have homelessness. If you give the homeless a job and a way to work, they qualify for subsidized housing. And then they're not homeless anymore. They sustain a paycheck when they can
both
feed
of
themselves.
our alarms are the same. That's why every time her alarm was going off,
Yeah.
I thought it was my phone. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine. It's just it's an epiphany. Like, that's how you solve homelessness, with the same mindset.
Yes.
That should be across the world, or particularly in the United States, where certain states are impacted and it's a big issue.
So the bottom line with what you just said, when there's not a solution to homelessness, it's because of the lack of willingness for the homeless people, but that is more than likely due to the mental illness that also needs to be addressed. So I see
or the impact on the community, where these politicians and commissioners and governors, if they all had transportation
companies
where they can, or just a big impact as far as with the state, where they reach out, where you can go get these help as far as with unemployment, in order to qualify for subsidized housing in most states. Like we have Section A in Georgia. I don't know how it works in other states. You need a paycheck, you need a way to work, and then therefore once you have an address, I guess qualify for other amenities that the states offer, as far as like food stamps and everything else. That's an easy answer, but they act like it's such a big issue, and it goes unresolved in most states, because there's millions of homeless people across the state that don't have this particular opportunity, or just don't know where to go.
Absolutely. You said it best.
That's crazy.
And I just want everyone to know, our other guests have not joined us. I heard Michelle just told us that there was a bad snowstorm in Des Moines. So that may be why some of our guests aren't on. And so, I mean, we're just going to rock
Pray
out
for
with,
them.
yeah, we're going to pray for them and rock out with Selena for the rest of the show because she has a wealth of information and is just so engaged and just truly a blessing to the community here and abroad. Like I wasn't expecting, you know, such in-depth conversation. Like I mean, I knew that you were into it, but just the way that you have strategically structured your business to work in a, almost like a cycle within itself, and then it be such a gem in the community. How do you get the word out about your services?
It's a very good question. So I believe that when we find ourselves in the capacity of entrepreneurship, we operate in all the fields, right? We're the tax solutions support. We are the HR. We are the hands on deck for backup call or on call when needed. But one thing we don't tend to prioritize is the opportunity to give back.
Right.
So when you find yourself making space once a week to truly give back to the community, serve in some sort of capacity, serve on a board, serve on a lower scale where you're a volunteer, your actions, your contributions are the most important aspect of marketing yourself and branding yourself within your community. So when people see you out there and they see what you do and people know what you know and know what you do, it makes a huge difference.
Right.
Of course, we all do marketing. We all go on Facebook. We all have websites, right? But at the end of the day, it's people bring their businesses to you because of the relationships they build with you.
Right.
I wouldn't have been privileged to be able to provide the shuttle service if I hadn't had that relationship of gifting that vision to a nonprofit agency
Mm.
2 years prior. So me gifting them with that, them realizing that they couldn't expand because they had other opportunities that they were juggling. They invited me because they knew I had the vision.
That's
And
great.
without any doubt, I could establish it and I could expand upon it. And so I delivered.
That is awesome. Do you offer in your area for people who are under you? Do you offer like any mentorship or anything like that?
I actually do. I provide consulting, I assist with grant writing, and I do provide mentorship.
That is amazing. So just tell all the people we're still gonna hang out, but just tell all the
I had a
people.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Because I
ahead.
know, because I'm trying to piggyback off of it, but I know this is one of our favorite topics.
Mhm.
Like you said, you started out in business at the age of 13, and you strategically went about your entrepreneurial journey. As far as generational wealth, I saw that you did have children. Have you started them out in some of the business ventures that you have as well?
My son launched his first business at age 4.
Oh wow.
And that young man, I had some of my staff work with him. So basically, he was signed up for NFL Flag League here in Cedar Rapids, but he was too young, but he has such high athletic aptitude, right?
Mhm.
And so because he was too young and he was short, they told him he couldn't play the rest of the season. But I told him, I said, well, what do you think is missing? I want you to look in the crowd and tell me what you think is missing. He said, snacks. I said, okay. So we're going to buy some snacks and we're going to have you start up a snack shop because I have the gas station, the convenience store. So we ordered his snacks through there. And he said he wanted to do nachos and he did canned pop. And this young man was generating $800 in 2 hours.
Wow. Love it. I
And
love it.
so, and with him, I believe, has that natural entrepreneurship instinct. Like for Christmas, he wanted to use my red minivan and he was going to hire some of his friends to be elves. And he wants us to basically deliver gifts to some of the families. And so the families would drop off their gifts to us. We'll hire a Santa Claus that will drive and we'll pimp the van so that it looks like a sleigh.
Oh
Right.
wow.
So think about it. So this is the way he thinks. You know, we talk about cigarettes. They go to a private school and they were challenged about smoking and drinking. And he said, well, let's say this. If we say people have addiction for smoking, why don't we create cigarettes that are vitamins that they could smoke and it could heal their lungs?
Oh, wow.
That's the way he thinks.
Oh, my goodness.
So when you talk about generational wealth, I am invested in challenging them to create their own books of their own visions. And I help them launch and experience whatever ventures they want. If we fall, we're going to come back to the table and figure out what could we do different. As far as my businesses that I've established, trying to be deliberate to also expand upon my ventures. Like with him, I want to get a sports center, athletic center, that will be a before after school program that will provide transportation from school, that will provide tutorial services, will feed the kiddos, but also work on different athletic aptitudes of some of the kiddos. That is going to be gifted to him when he grows up, and so looking at where there's their interest in creating that enterprise for them, gifting it to them, creating a trust where they cannot sell that business. It has to be passed on to their kids and their future kids to come. So if they don't want to run it, they could lease it, but it's not theirs for sale. But we want to keep that in the community. We want to keep that in the family, and we want to make sure that it precedes us, that it continues. And that's where we focus on when we say generational wealth.
Love it. Love it. And I'm so glad you said that. And that's why we felt like it was important. He has a 4-year-old, and his 4-year-old is already voice acting with us and has been on like movies and everything that's, already posted. So it is very important. It doesn't matter. Like at first, I kind of was like, well, maybe he's too young. But then I got to thinking, inspiration, there's no limit to when that inspiration will start. So I'm like, get him in the studio and let's get to work. And he loves it. Like he knows what to do when he comes up from Georgia. He knows what to do when he comes in the studio. And the more he does it, the better he is at it. And it's kind of still, it's on the entrepreneur side, more on the creative side, but he still has that, that ambition to, he likes electronics and stuff. So all of that is very important. So I feel like we're kind of on the same track there.
Right.
Yeah. Very important.
Absolutely. And honestly, even when I look at opportunities, I tend to have a meeting with my family because I'm going to gift this to them moving forward. So I always have a meeting with them and I share the idea. And then I say, what are the gaps? Because they might see something that I'm not seeing.
Right.
And even in our home downstairs, we have a whiteboard that has mapped out all the ventures that we are doing for the family. And so even all the businesses are on the board. And so I always tell them, if something comes to mind and I'm not here, grab a marker, write what you thought about that venture underneath that column. And when you get a chance, walk me through what your thoughts were. And so it's really engaging them and giving them a sense of ownership on the front end, because then on the back end, it's not going to be a burden.
Absolutely.
Because they were part of that change.
Absolutely. And I love how you said, the most of the challenges are just paperwork. I love how you put that because that is so true, because I hate doing paperwork.
Most people do. They get to that point and then they just stop.
I just want to do the thing,
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
And what was the name of the nonprofit that you were working with at first that kind of got everything in motion? Or
Willie's Lady Shelter. I serve as an executive board member, and they're the one that primarily are the to-go-to for homelessness in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
And how did you make that connection? Like, what made you reach out to them? Your heart was kind of like already in that space, and you went to them to see what they had going on?
And so you remember when we talked about how I do things and I'm very deliberate and strategic? I found myself serving at the halfway house as an offender employment specialist. And I know housing was the next phase for individuals that are leaving the halfway house and resettling or reintegrating into the community. So it'll only make sense that I am networked and I'm around that table when it comes to do with housing. And so I reached out to Willis Diddy and say, what's the requirements? What paperwork do I need to do to serve on your board? And they said, oh, you have to donate this specific amount as far as annual contribution, and you have to fill out this paperwork, and we will have to bring you in front of the committee. You'll be voted upon. You'll have to visit a couple of times to see whether you want to, you truly like the synergy of the board and would like to serve in that capacity. And so I navigated the steps, fill out the paperwork, and I had a seat on the table.
Love it. Love it. And
so it's just, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
So it's really just having a blueprint.
Okay.
So in whatever capacity you find yourself working, create a blueprint that aligns with your next steps. Who are doing what you are doing? Who has access that you might not be currently utilizing? What are the requirements for you to also have access? And then put a timeline and an outreach.
So I have a question as well. So what if you have someone, because you can't give too much game away, I know how that works, but if you have the vision and you mapped it out, but you just don't have the funds available, is there any advice for people for maybe angel investors or crowdfunding or grants or anything like that, particularly not just in Iowa, but across the states?
So yes, there are lots of grants. Now, with the big picture of things, to be honest with you, Deuce, I really believe that if we wait for grants, it takes longer for us to launch and join the market. So really making sure that you deliberate to work on your financial health is important, okay? Because we talked about the shuttle services. It's not like I had 200,000 in the account waiting for me to just go take out, right? But I had a great credit that I was able to leverage. So I used somebody else's money to make money.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we think about it. If you're looking at a smaller scale of things, we have to really think about what do we have? What do we have that we can put value to? I've had individuals or small business owners that will come to me and they will want to make a quick move, but it's going to require them $10,000 and they're just in a bind. They're trying to overthink it. And I said, do you have a vehicle? Yep. What's the value of your vehicle? Oh, 20,000. How much have you paid on it? Oh, 15,000. I have a banker. Go to that banker, get a title loan. Let the money you have make money for you. Don't overthink it. Let's still work on the grants. When the grants comes, take that grant money, pay that loan off.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
it's really thinking what's your blueprint? What do you have that's valuable? How do you make that money make money for you?
Love it. We actually have another guest that joined that I don't know if you are connected, but this will be a great way to get you connected. We have Miss
Dana's on, and Miss Hazel also said she'll
be on it too.
Okay.
Yep. I saw. Miss Dana James, who is, hey, welcome.
Hi.
Are you the owner, the CEO of the Iowa Black News?
Founder and publisher, Black Iowa News.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much. How is the weather pretty bad there?
Yes, it is. I think we got like 5 inches of snow. It's it's not super cold, but the snow is stacked. So a lot of people shoveling and snow blowing. Our first real snow of the season, which is really weird. So it's odd to be this late.
Yeah, I was gonna say this after Christmas,
right.
After everything. So you guys didn't even have a white Christmas this year.
No, we didn't, and I was glad because I was going to Minnesota for Christmas, so I was happy. But a lot of people like the snow. I've lived here in Iowa long enough that I'm over the snow. So I mean, it's pretty right now, but it's a mess because you got to clean it up. You got to drive in it, and yeah.
Well, he's from Georgia, but I'm familiar because I'm from Ohio, so okay. I know. I know. So please
go ahead.
Oh,
because Georgia's not built for snow like that.
Yeah,
flood,
exactly.
Or rain. It's like the infrastructure as far as the city drains and everything like that. They're not made.
I know.
You guys have snowplow on demand. Like soon they're ready. It's just like city waste management. We don't have that in Georgia. We have to wait hours for someone to be rescued or anything like that. But that's another story. I'm sorry.
True. So Black Iowa News. Tell us about yourself and tell us about Black Iowa News.
Yeah. So I'm born and raised in Des Moines, Iowa, capital city. Um, got a journalism degree, was working as a newspaper reporter at the Des Moines Register for 7 years. Had done some other things like in communications, banking, insurance, a wide variety of things. And I was actually out of journalism for a while before I started Black Iowa News. But really, the impetus for starting it had a lot to do with the COVID-19 pandemic, because I just wasn't seeing any real stories talking about how the pandemic was affecting Black people. I was reading stories from, from down south, from, Chicago, from out east, about how Black people were being decimated, like whole generations just gone, mom, dad, grandpa, kids. And I really thought if that wave comes to Iowa at the in the political climate that we were in at that time, I was like, it will decimate us. Because we had very much a state government just wanting everyone to get to work, pretend like there wasn't a pandemic. It really just wanting us to be consumers. So I pitched a story to another national outlet. And while I was waiting for that outlet to tell me if they were going to publish my story, I studied their platform and just decided to do it myself, because I felt that it was that urgent of a need for us to have credible information that really was kind of by us, for us. So I made a conscious decision at that point that I was really only interviewing Black people. I was only uplifting their voices. I was finding Black experts, doctors, nurses. When I couldn't find a Black epidemiologist, I found an epidemiologist of color. It was that, and I didn't know like all these things. I think being a Black Iowan, like these things were always working on me, because the disparities that we live with, to me, they're very obvious. And I'm not saying they're not insurmountable, but they're very obvious, and they're wreaking havoc on what we could accomplish. And so I think being always aware of those things, I think I was always planning to do this, but not really knowing it. And so the pandemic kind of forced my hand. So boom, next thing you know, I was publishing, a digital platform, was just adding, subscribers, adding people to it. And a lot of people were telling me, hey, keep going, we need this. So people would send me like $75 here, $200 here, and just encourage me on. I didn't have a real business plan at that point. But I had tried to start a business previously. So, I had the concepts down. But really, it was that urgency that we needed to stay safe. We needed to outlast this pandemic, and we needed to understand really the disparities when it came to how how vaccines were, how they were determining where the vaccines were, how some of these inequities. I wanted to talk about it, and other people wanted to hear it too. So that got me going. But roughly 10 days after I started Black Iowa News, George Floyd was murdered. So there, I'm off on another, serious topic. And I have a connection to Minnesota. My sister and my brother-in-law live there. And so I really feel like things in the Midwest, like if it affects one, it affects us all. Like, really does. And so that really spurred me on. So I'm going to protest. My husband and I going to protest, following what's happening, trying to, see if we're going to get change. And we did get change, but it just wasn't positive. It just wasn't beneficial to us, really. So since then, it's just been a whirlwind of writing, but also at the same time, I've made a conscious effort to work on like professional development and to really work on, the journalism side of it. There's a lot going on now in the journalism field with small outlets like mine. There's a lot of grant money that's out there that some people are getting, and there's issues even still with equity around how this money has been disseminated. So I've tried to really network with other people. And one of the best things that happened to me in doing Black Iowa News was when this outfit at CUNY University in New York, they have the Black Media Initiative, and they heard about what I was doing. And at that time, they said I was one of the only few Black journalists on Substack. And so they reached out to me and they're like, hey, you know, we want you to teach a virtual class. And I'm like, I'm not a teacher. But they're like, no, you just show people what you do. And I'm like, okay, cool, I could do that. So I got hooked up. I did the class. It was great. And I showed people the ins and outs of how that platform worked. And one of those things was turning on the donation button. The subscription button, which I hadn't turned on, y'all. I had just been grinding, writing stories and, you know, kind of working off my own money, and wasn't really focused in on making it sustainable. But anyway, I'm teaching this class and I turned that button on just to show people. Well, when the class was over, I forgot that I turned it on and I didn't turn it off. And the next thing you know, like my phone just is ding, 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 ding. And I'm like, what's happening? Like, what's blown up? And it was just like donations pouring in from people. And I was like, wow, you know, this is, you know, a beautiful thing. And so since then, I've grown from Substack. I had a like 18-month partnership with Meta on their bulletin platform, which was really great for me as a business because they did a lot of behind the scenes professional development. They did a lot on the social media side of engagement and growing your audience and, you know, learning how to use the different tools they had. That helped grow me from like 1,200 followers to where I am now, which is close to 20,000. And I think that was really super helpful. I knew it was a blessing when it happened. But again, it put me in touch with really great people. And that has really led to where I'm at now, which is I started a newspaper last June. Because again, we're having these conversations really in our own silos, I feel like. And I know the power of print. And regardless of what the industry is saying, you know, you've got a lot of people saying, oh, print's dead and, you know, it's everything digital. Well, I started digital and I have that side of it. But also, I felt like I wanted to do something that connected people where I'm at in Des Moines to Cedar Rapids, to Dubuque, to Waterloo, to Fort Dodge, Sioux City. All across the state, you've got Black people doing fantastic things, but at the same time, we've got still big challenges. And I wanted to hear more from what people were doing. I also felt like, and this is very old school, because I grew up, my family, my parents always had, because I love to read, so they always had every newspaper, magazine, book, encyclopedia. Like I was just reading everything. And I really felt like, well, if I could create something that's super Black, so everything's written by someone Black, all the voices in the story are Black. And if I could get as many Black people photographed, kids included, and just it's like we're having a conversation with ourselves in a way. I'm like, if I could do that and get that into thousands of homes across the state, like, wow, what could we accomplish if we start to think of ourselves as a unit and start to think of our problems as a collective set of problems that we can make a difference on. So instead of just, you know, the people in Waterloo doing their thing, and they do great things, we could learn from them, and I could uplift some of those leaders, and maybe that's inspires somebody somewhere else. And that's really, so I put out, it's a quarterly newspaper for right now, but I wanted to really grow it to be monthly at a minimum. But it's challenging. Like I heard your other guest talking about, you know, the challenges of businesses. It's challenging to get a piece of paper, thousands of copies into the hands of Black people all across the state. So the first time we did it, it was simply, we, you know, loaded up a van and I with 8,500 newspapers. And I took that newspaper to 24 cities, I think it was, my husband and I. So we're driving all over Iowa. I'm seeing parts of Iowa I've never seen before. And I'm really seeing how Black people are living in some of these smaller towns. And, you know, really, it was, it saddened me in some ways because.
Was it like really shanty, like shacks and like just poor?
I wouldn't say it was like shacks, but it was obviously poor. And some of these towns, like Fort Dodge, for example, I've written about Fort Dodge, the issues that some Black residents were having with the police and feeling like the police were harassing them. And it's a long-standing thing. And so they're starting to really organize to fight some of these things. And in that town, I just felt like it was, you know, you have roughly, I think that town has 1,700 Black people. And I want to say the total population, oh, I don't want to misquote it, but let's just say for the sake of conversation, 20,000. And, you know, I'm just thinking about these 1,700 Black people in this town. The way the town was organized. Now, you all know about redlining, you know, how they purposely put the freeways through our communities and destroy, you know that they decided that, oh, we're going to put all of our investment and loans and money into this side of town, and then we'll just put a little bit in this side and be a buffer and then the Black people, we're going to put them over here and we're going to starve them and deprive them of any resources. Yeah. So like when you go to these towns, it's very obvious. It's very obvious. Like when you're looking at the side of town, like in Fort Dodge has something called the Flats. And it's basically under this huge bridge that runs across the town. The Black people are down in the Flats. And they had to fight for a park. And this park, you know, the residents, you know, they're telling me about this park they fought for. So I'm going there and I had, I guess, different expectations of what the park would look like, but it's the tiniest of parks. And I was like, it made me mad, really. Like, are you serious? Like, so a lot of things like that when I was driving around the state, things made me mad. But also some of our disparities that we have in the state, like, for example, Black women are 6-7 times more likely to die, you know, Black maternal health than white women. 25% of the prison population is Black people. Like I could go on and on with the disparities, but when you look at the towns, it starts to make sense. And so
let me back you up on that prison, because we talked to Selena about this a little bit earlier, where you say 25% of the population, I mean, of the imprisonment is Black. And you said like there's only like 1,700 Black people in the town. So are you talking about which area? Are you talking about?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So I was talking about like overall in the state.
Okay.
So Iowa has roughly around 130,000 Black people, I believe the number is. And so of the people that are imprisoned in Iowa, we make up 4% of the state's population, but 25% of the prison population.
That's crazy.
It's been that way for 20-something years or more. So when I started as a reporter at the Des Moines Register in 99, that number was the same. So you know, I like to just keep it real. You can't tell me that any of this is not happening by design. It's purposeful. Like there's so many policies and procedures that feed these numbers so that we got these brothers and sisters in there making 17 cents an hour. You know, we're subjected to the glare of the police more than any other population because they're overrepresented in our communities. So, driving around the state, while I saw some things, you know, there's some beautiful parts of Iowa that I had never seen before, but at the same time, you know, like you're going to Dubuque, and Dubuque's, you know, along the Mississippi, beautiful town, but you know, you got like way up on the bluffs, you got these beautiful homes up there. That's where the white people are. And then down here where the old business district for Black people are, it's, it's in need of investment. Now, there are some good things going on there now. There's a couple of businesses that have moved closer to downtown. They have some investment by the city, and that will make a difference. But some of these things are just, it's disheartening to look at. And it fuels me even more whenever I even think, well, this is exhausting, writing all of this, driving this paper all across town. I just think about the needs that we have and the need to have our own things, the need to have our own conversation, and the need to have, to use our success stories to motivate other people. Because I mean, if there was a long time in my life when like my friends' kids would graduate from high school, and I'd be talking to them, seeing what they're doing, and I would tell them straight up, leave here. Like, don't stay here. Get on the next thing smoking and get out of here. Yeah. And that's really sad. And now I think I want to be more of a part of helping change the conditions so that the people who live here, their voices are heard.
Or don't have to leave either to
Yeah.
do something.
Right, because there are some benefits. I mean, I was relatively clean. It's relatively, and I don't even know if I can say that it's relatively safe anymore, because I'm sure y'all just seen we had a school shooting, and lo and behold, in Iowa, you might have thought that it was going to be a white child that is shot, just based on statistics, and it's not. It's a beautiful little brown boy who was killed. Amir Joliffe. So, I mean, yeah, we have some problems, but we have opportunity as well. So I'm going to keep it positive that we can do something. And at the very least, we can speak about it. That's the least we can do, is talk about it.
Absolutely. I love as you're talking, we have the website pulled up. We're looking at some of the places that, you've captured on your About Us, and it looks like you captured these while you were on your journey discovering different parts of the state. Beautiful photos that you have. I'm just really loving it is an upbeat, positive vibe on the website. Very simple, to the point, easy for anyone to navigate, which is very important. I love what you have going on, and it seems like everything showed up for you at the right time, because you were the right person to bring this out and to navigate this for the state. What does your team and staff look like? Who helps you out to keep the site beautiful and functional and up to date?
I love that word staff, and that is definitely a word in 2024 that I am, when you want to say claiming it, I'm claiming that, because I really need it. Starting, I update the website, and I have a contractor who also does some updates, but I'm pretty much, posting all of the stories. I write probably 90%, 95% of the stories, in addition to updating all of the different social media sites. Over time, I've worked with like 6 different contractors. So I have a couple of columnists. One is a veteran who writes about veteran issues, writes about small businesses. Another one is a Black stay-at-home mom who is really writing about uplifting the family. And I love that, because that is a voice that you don't always hear about. Someone who's into, like, she calls it unschooling, where she's really in charge of teaching her children what they know and things like that, her and her spouse. And then another writer is a woman in Des Moines, born in Waterloo, but doesn't really see herself as a writer, but is a really great writer at talking about some of the wellness things. And I think that's a great theme going into, the new year, the need to focus on wellness, because if we don't take care of ourselves, and trust me, I have to say this to myself all the time, the way that I've run this for 3 years really has been just on like pure adrenaline and steam. And I think I'm just now getting to the point where it's like, whoo, okay, yeah, maybe working 12 hours a day, maybe there's a better way to work. And so I'm definitely manifesting the desire to bring on more people. And then also very open to networking with other people and seeing how we can just grow it. I want to really grow it so that more people know about it. But what has happened so far has been really great because people are very invested in it. People write me 2-page letters about stories that they've read or about just seeing it, just how it uplifts them to know that we have this. So,
and I want to say to you, looking on the site, I don't see anything that's specifically for jobs, and that's Selena. That's what she helps do. So that she might be a great connection for you in that area. She provides a shuttle service for, people who are in need, and is, she works in a sector that, talks to people who are in need of jobs. So that you guys might be a shoe-in connection for each other.
Definitely. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that I'm moderating a panel at MLK Now 2024 where Selena will be one of the panelists. So I look forward to meeting you in person. And, when I heard about what you do, I was just blown away. And that, again, is a function of, this would be different if I was covering one city. I would know Selena. But when you're trying to cover, a state that is, 4 hours one way and 4 hours the other way, and even 3 years in, there's still many more people to learn about what they're doing. There's still other great stories to discover. So I'm excited about meeting you, Selena, and being able to have you be in, a future newspaper, because everyone needs to know your story.
It will be my honor and a privilege to collaborate with you, Ms. Donna. So I look forward to it.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah, so this is just amazing. I see that on the site you're also promoting MLK Now. So I guess that puts you in the realm of being a sponsor as well. I absolutely love that. Let me ask you, as I have asked Selena, how did you find out about BOB, and what is your connection, and how have you benefited so far?
Yeah, it's really crazy, but BOB found me, which is really wonderful. And again, those connections you make. Like, I hadn't heard about BOB, even though, Michelle, the CEO, is up in Minnesota. She's up in the Twin Cities, and over, I'm trying to think if it was Christmas or if it was New Year's or Thanksgiving, I got to go meet her at her home, and get some of those wonderful flyers for the event that I was able to insert in 1,000 and some newspapers, so that, when we sent the newspapers across the state, people had that flyer in their hands. So they have all those beautiful Black faces on there. They have the names of those companies that maybe they didn't know anything about before. But certainly this organization, I feel, just even in this short time that I've been in touch with them, I really feel like, again, it's going to help propel my business forward and connect me with other like-minded people. Because I'm really big too on learning what you need to know to improve. So I'm always looking for, like webinars and Zooms and things like that, where someone is teaching you something. Like, it's so important. So I love what they're doing. We need it. And I can't wait for Saturday's event. We just, have to pray. I'm glad the snow hit now. So then it'll be cleaned up. So then Saturday, we won't be, impacted by that. But I just feel like that day is just, I can almost feel the energy now, just thinking about all these beautiful Black people in one spot. And we're talking about super important things, like the panel I'm doing has to do with creating generational wealth and finances. And, people are going to benefit from hearing Selena's story and hearing even what she was just saying prior to me coming on about leveraging, your resources and using, using what you have to make money. Those are all tactics and skills that we need to have if we're going to grow our businesses. So I'm excited about seeing all these other businesses that I knew nothing about, so that I can help uplift them as well. So I can put them in the newspaper, put them on the website, put them in. I have an email newsletter that goes out weekly to about close to 5,000. So again, we can use all of these tools that we have to get more eyes on what people are doing.
Love it. And again, the site is really beautiful. I'm glad that that you put that out there for us to enjoy. Any questions?
No, I was just curious, but we went on. Like she was saying before, that through the disparity of the pandemic, sort of like unleashed the dragon back into journalism. But what was the initial inspiration, as you were saying, back in the 90s? You can imagine what was going on in the news and media back then. If you can recall, what was the initial inspiration?
Yeah, so this gets deep. So I went to college right out of high school. And then, like many other people, I ended up dropping out. I wanted to work. But my dad was always like, well, here, if you want to, I'll pay for you to take some classes. Just keep going at night. So I was like, cool. He paid for my books. He paid for the classes. So I had all these credits that really didn't go together, but I just was able to follow my interest around because my parents were very serious about education. So my dad passed away in 94 unexpectedly of a heart attack, and he was only 56.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really shocking. And at that time, my sister and I had a conversation about, we talked about the fact that, my dad had a short life. Chances are he didn't get to do all of the things that he wanted to do. All he had ever done was work hard for his family. I mean, he was a family man. People did things in the community, had this great group of friends. And so when my sister and I had this conversation after his funeral, I said, well, I'm going to go back to school, because he really wanted me to finish. And so we talked about well, what do you like to, what do you like to do? And I'm like, well, I like to run my mouth. I like to read. I like to analyze. And I'm very much like a critical thinker. And I was like, I should be a reporter. And that is where the idea came. Really, it came from, his untimely death. So I went, got a journalism degree, started working. My goal was to work at the state's largest paper. It's here in Des Moines, where I live. And so I started working there. But again, you're right. You did have all of these, those early 2000s while I was there. You did have all of these criminal justice problems that we have in the state. And even just doing the kind of journalism I wanted to do, you had challenges, because you had really a white newspaper that at that time, they had to tell reporters to, when you go out and cover a story, hey, make sure you get a person of color in it. Make sure you try to photograph a person of color. Like, it wasn't natural how it was. But my goal in being there, I was a type of reporter. I was doing there what I do now, which is, if you send me to write a story, you know what type of people is going to be in there. It's going to be, I'm going to find that Black child to get photographed, because I know their grandmom and their mom and everybody in their life is going to cut that story out, put it on the refrigerator somewhere, put it in a book. So I felt my role there again was to represent the community. So yeah, there were challenges, but again, it was still a great training ground, because everything that I do now, part of it I learned there. I learned how to do great journalism. And part of what I'm doing, at Black Iowa News, is about the highest quality journalism that I can do. It's not about just putting out some puff pieces. It's not about just putting out some, I go deep in my stories. Like, I wrote a series called, it's on the website, about Black maternal health. And it was about racism and maternity care. And I did that with a fellowship from the Journalism and Women's Symposium, so a group of women journalists nationally, and spent, I don't know, 5 months on writing those 3 stories, interviewed, 24 people, interviewed the people who wrote some of these studies that show these terrible disparities that women are dealing with. And so everything that I do, again, it is about that high quality part of it. So I wanted the paper, website, all of it to be something that we could be proud of. Because you know how sometimes it's like, oh, this is janky, or we get caught. I didn't want any of that. So I had to learn how to do, I hadn't done newspaper layout since I was in college. So I had to learn all of that again. So very much how I operate is very much by, and I know this is gonna sound crazy, but it's very much heavy D, stay self-managed, self-kept, self-taught. That is like my mantra when I'm doing things. So now though that Black Iowa News is getting to be the size it is, I know how all the parts work. I've done every role. I've been the newspaper delivery person. I've been the social media maven. I'm the writer. I'm doing all these parts. But now I think in order to get myself and Black Iowa News to that next level, I know I need more people. So that's why I love the word staff. It was like, yes, it's
it's manifesting. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because the way you have it put together, I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell that it was like a one man band,
right.
Speaking. So yes, it looks so good and so polished, and you can tell that there's quality and good work ethic behind it. So I just want to give you your flowers and kudos for sticking with it, first of all, because that is hard. Like, if you don't really see an immediate payout for something and, it's your passion, it's easy to give up and you're not. And it is providing a value. And I did want to also say, we work with a magazine because we're kind of in the music sector. And once I found a magazine that was doing print, it was like, that's, I don't understand why people are so afraid of print, and I still think that it has huge leverage, because when you said, when you put your magazine, that means that a person not of color who might be interested in what's going on in the Black community could pick that. They will probably never, their algorithm will never bring them across it digitally. They're probably never going to type Black news, but if they see that paper in the stands in the store, they might say, and grab it.
And they do. And they, many of my subscribers, are white Iowans. Many of my champions and my cheerleaders, are. And because they want that, some of them want that understanding about other people. They want to know more about us. They want to know more about, there's a church in town that what I write about in Black Iowa News, they study it in their church study groups. So when I was writing about the, how Iowa is not treating its Black pregnant people well at all, they started a study group at their church, and they're sifting through the data and trying to really understand how they can impact that disparity. So that's one of the most powerful things, aside from us, because everything I do for us is in love. It does have that happy byproduct. You're right, that other people are seeing us in a different light. Other people are wanting to seek out and hear our voices. So I love that part of it. And I'm I do it for us, but hey, if other people love it, let them love it, and let them be a part of understanding that maybe some of the things that they think about us, whether it's implicit, explicit, however, that maybe it's incorrect, and this will help them have a different perspective on who we are and what we're about.
Go ahead.
No,
I'll try not to go on a tangent because
go off.
It may not be the correct platform, but it's just like you were saying earlier, like print. It was perceived that print is dead. It's not the same in the other cultures. It's just our culture. Like we don't have the Ebony magazine or the Jet magazines anymore. I mean, I would say that Essence has been around for quite some time now, and that may have been all that we had. Not even with source magazines or just particularly in hip hop. It went to the internet, and I understand that, but you still had the Better Living and Better Health and Men's Health and all these other home magazines and HGTV. It was still prevalent and on the shelves.
And even
at the
still
stores.
now, when we went to Books a Million, how many Black resources were there in the magazine section? It was like 5.
But if we did anything like that, like brought the other cultures into our home and publicized them on magazines, TV, or what have you, I think that's the change now. Like, they're curious as to what we know or our culture or our upbringing or our ancestors, like certain recipes, holistic health, things like that. They're curious to know how we stand the test of time.
Right.
But it's more so ironic when you have that pushback in journalism where you don't want to hear about our struggle. You don't want to hear that how nothing has changed in the past 25 years as when you started journalism. Nothing. It's the same issues and stuff that were happening in our community, in our prison, or as far as prison reform and everything else. You just want to hear about, the light side.
Or the little bit of progress and just try to amplify that when it's not really where it should be. If they were, contributing or doing, like, let's just say politically, if there were funds allocated properly, progress would be much more, maybe.
Even as far as when we talk about magazines, we would have Black TV shows on TV Guides every other week or so. It's not a thing anymore.
Right.
But I'm trying to stay on subject. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you, because I feel like seeing things in print, we already know there's studies that say reading print, seeing things in print, you perceive it a different way. It's deeper than scrolling on your phone. I read tons of stuff on my phone, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that those stories affect me like it does when I'm flipping like this, when I'm reading something tangible in my hands. And I wanted it to have that effect on in the homes, because, and then also the other thing is, you might share a story that you see, you forward the link to someone and maybe they read a little bit and they get distracted. They never come back to that story. But if that newspaper is in your house, it's sitting on your table or it's in your magazine rack or whatever you have, and maybe somebody picks it up and maybe, mom reads some stories. Okay. And she sits it down, and maybe, her son picks it up, reads some things, and it gets passed around. And that's really what I wanted, because then it's not just me affecting the 8,500 copies that I sent out. That's doubling and tripling the reach of the newspaper. And I agree with you. I don't, some of these industry things, like when I went on another podcast, the people told me, they're like, well, you're either a visionary or you're crazy for doing print. And I said, I'm cool with being both, because this is in service of my community. This is something that doesn't exist currently that I feel that we need. And other people obviously feel we need it too, because they're supporting it financially. People, my subscribers, whether they're sending me $10 a month or $100 a month, that's money that they could have built something else with, but they believe in what I'm trying to do. They believe in the fact, that we need information. We know, like, without knowledge, we'll perish. And so even starting with COVID, where you had misinformation out there and you had a governor really saying, hey, get back to work. I was able to write stories from a packing plant talking about how those workers, were catching COVID left and right and dying, and what a problem that was, and how we're not just here to be consumers either. We're, what I'm saying? Like, I found that most offensive. One of the most offensive things during the pandemic is that, oh, we need these restaurants to open and we need you to just go out and eat. And, we don't care about your health. Some people around here are on their 5th time of having COVID. Like, to me, the need for, like, credible information about us, for us to appeal to us is just critical, especially with what's happening nationally, politically. We just need credible information. And that's the only way we're going to get through.
Absolutely. Well, I have another guest that has joined us, Miss Hazel Grace, and another great connection for both of you. And I'm pretty sure you'll be meeting her at the MLK. Miss Hazel Grace, thank you for coming on. How are you?
I'm great. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear
Yeah.
you great. Why don't you
Okay.
introduce yourself and tell us about, I don't want to get the name wrong, Ori Asi
I
Waistbeads.
say.
I said
Mhm.
Waistbeads. Tell us all about that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for your patience of working technical difficulties out. I appreciate that. And yes, my name is Hazel Grace, and I'm originally from Des Moines, Iowa. I was born and raised. And I'm a black business owner, obviously in Des Moines, Iowa. I didn't start out that way. I did some traveling. I've lived in Minnesota and North Carolina for a very long time and attended my HBCU out there. And in the end of 2014, I chose to come home, and I started a family. And I was working and just doing the best that I could with what I thought I should be doing. And then right before the pandemic hit, I chose to open my own business after there was a buildup of intuition in me. And I started my own business, which was first Hazel Grace Photography.
Okay.
And I own several businesses, but every single one of my businesses started out as passions that I was already doing before I wanted to turn it into a business. So, I started Hazel Grace Photography, and then I do have a business, Melanin Mixologist, where I offer adult sweet treats. And then we have Ori Ashe, handmade waist beads. And also, I have another business that's growing. It's called HG Code, where, on apparel and coffee mugs and things like that, I offer inspirational quotes that I've came up with.
So will
So,
you be a vendor at the MLK? Will we be
Right.
seeing your wares there?
absolutely. So, I will be bringing Ori Ashe waist beads there. And along with the waist beads, I offer sage and, spiritual waters, Florida water, and incense and things like that. But the star of the show is definitely the waist beads. It's been such a blessing to offer these waist beads. Waist beads, they are body adornment and body jewelry, but what I appreciate about Wariashe the most is the substance that comes behind it.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm offering, physical beads on a string with designs and crystals and things like that, but it's the empowerment that comes with wearing waist beads and with me offering these waist beads, because these are just tools. These are tools to serve you. And, I remind people that, we have dominion over everything. So anything that you put into a thing is what is going to serve back to you. So I appreciate the substance, the empowerment, the encouragement, the motivation and inspiration that come with the beads. And then you get to leave with the beads, but the message is what's really going to last forever.
Love it. That is very wholesome and holistic. So at what point did you decide that you wanted to go kind of like mainstream and turn the craft into um, a full time? Are you LLC or are you
Yes,
sole
ma'am.
proprietor? Okay, awesome. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Um, for me, so my first LLC was Hazel Grace Photography.
Mhm.
And like I was listening to you two other ladies speaking, and everything that you ladies spoke on, I can just hit with as far as like doing the paperwork and being a black woman in Iowa, and just being an entrepreneur and thinking creatively. For me, when I started Hazel Grace Photography, I was doing really well as a front end manager at a very popular doctor's office here. And so for me, on a personal tip, I need freedom to thrive.
Mhm.
And my mind needs freedom to thrive. And so that's going to leak over to my business, my family, my children. If I'm free, then I can create. And that I didn't feel free. And like it was at Dana, I believe. Um, I left this doctor's office right before COVID, and I know they would have pushed for, especially staff, to be back in that office. And it was a danger. It was already dangerous working there when it's a cesspool in there.
Mhm.
Anyway, they was gonna push us to come back, and I just so happened to leave right before COVID really hit. Um, and I quit my job and I put everything that I had. It was risque, but you're not gonna get big results if you don't take risk.
Right.
That's just a part of the game. That's just how it goes. And so I'm trying to think. It was August of 2019 when I quit my job. And I wanted to be a photographer. I'm self-taught. So that summer prior to leaving, I I self-taught about the cameras I needed to do. I was showing up pro bono for parties and events and oh, you having a baby? I'll do your baby shoot. I'll do this. I'm offering myself to my dream. If you have a dream, you have to offer yourself in any condition that you're in. And so I did that. I'm self-taught all the way. And meanwhile, I'm suffocating at my 9 to 5. I'm suffocating because I have to answer to you. I have to answer that. Meanwhile, I got them 5-star reviews. I'm saying all this to say I was a superstar for them. I was getting up on time, being there. I was following their policy. I am a mother, so that job seems to come first because that job puts bread on the table. And I'm giving them all I got, and I'm giving them 5-star reviews and things like that. And so one day I said to myself, Hazel, if you can make, at the time, the CEO, if you could make him $1 million, why can't you make yourself $1 million?
Said the same
So
thing in
I
the
I
same
abruptly left that clinic, which it was a me thing. And when I left, I continued to do freelance photography on my own. It taught me how to use my money even more wisely for my finance. And 3 to 4 months later, December of 2019, I was offered a studio downtown where I occupied for 3 years, and it was beautiful. Things will work out when you use the ingredients that you have in your kitchen. You know, use what you have in your environment, in your mind, in your knowledge. Use it and make what you have from scratch right there, and then it will be added unto you to create more or go a different way or build on top of what you've already built.
Right.
So from there, my next I've so Hazel Grace Photography started. I had a studio. I was growing and going. Another knack that I always had a knack for, another talent, was creating sweet treats.
Mhm.
When I used to attend church, I was born and raised in church, but we used to bring food to the potlucks and to the bakery sales, and I was always going to bring something sweet. Everybody knew that. So, long story short, I ended up bringing some sweet treats to a friend of mine, and it's always a blessing to have a garden of encouraging friends. And they encouraged me, like, girl, you should sell this. You should do this. You should do that. And I did that, and that became successful. And then Oriache, gosh, man, I wore waist beads for myself for a year before I opened up a business. And wearing waist beads, especially the waist beads that I offer tie on only. So tie on waist beads, that means once they tie it on you, it's going to stay with you. You're going to shower with it, work out with it, make love in it, be yourself in it, hold yourself to accountability with these waist beads. This is a self reflective jewelry tool. And so and it's going to act as a natural weight management as well. So I wanted to, manage my weight, but also what I tell, my clients and anybody that wants to hear about waist beads is as within, so without. Especially for a woman, our bodies don't only fluctuate because we're overeating and we're going for the third tacos and the fourth margaritas. If we're stressed out mentally, if we're not sleeping properly, if there's a decision that needs to be made, maybe you just moved to a new town, whatever's circulated in your mind is going to reflect in your body and in your environment. And these waist beads are not to body shame you, but to help you be more aware of where you're at mentally and where you're at physically. And they do add for, self-confidence and sensuality and sexuality and just, commitment and accountability as a self-reflection. So I love offering that to anyone. I've wasted women, I've wasted children, babies, men. And I believe my biggest impact, especially with Oriache, comes from the positive motivation and inspiration that I add to the beads, because there's a lot of people that offer waist beads. But what makes Oriache so unique is that you're going to get a lasting motivation, positive experience with getting your waist beads.
Love it. Love it. Tell us how you connected with BOB and how it's been working out for you.
I'm excited. I know one of the ladies had already said we have a snowstorm down here, but I'm still coming on up from Des Moines. But I have a wonderful sister group where Black women own their own business, and we have a group chat. And a good sister of mine, Miss Anise, she put in the group chat like, hey, this is going on in Cedar Rapids. This was a few months ago. She's like, this is going on. I'm excited. She sent the flyer in the chat, and all of us was like, yep, we're on it, we're on it, we're on it. And I knew I was going because I had already been praying. Put even the slightest whisper. I tell my people, watch your mouth, watch your words, because I have been doing pretty well here in Des Moines, especially when it comes to being exposed for Oriache. I've done the downtown farmers market. I've done a lot of different vending in Des Moines. I'm like, look, I'm ready to reach out. I'm ready to creep out. And because I was gonna think about it. I got little roots in Minnesota. I wanted to go to Minnesota, but then she popped up with the Cedar Rapids with BOB, and I said, I'm going. I mean, and this is my judge. I mean, again, I love being around our people, especially being Black in Iowa. And there's nothing wrong with it. But when you find opportunities and groups and events that support us, for us, by us, we're there. We're going about it in a way that is organized for everybody to flow. I'm all in. I'm all in. So when she sent it, I knew I was going to go, and I shared it with, a few other group chats that I'm in. Miss Michelle was right on top of it. She emailed out the flyers and all the promo, and that allowed me to do some footwork and went on down to Mainframe and offered that down there so everyone can know. And if you could travel, if you have family up here, you might not be able to make it in Des Moines, especially with the snow, but you got family up in Cedar Rapids, let them know. They'll come out. It's just about word of mouth. Word of mouth is the biggest train. It's the biggest vehicle. So, I told someone else, and I'm going to keep telling until, this story is told. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. And I want to say, being from the Midwest, we're used to doing things in the cold. So, down here in Georgia, it's different because we don't come outside. I've been down here 20 years now, so I'm a little more acclimated to the South. But when I was in Ohio, I did things in the cold all the time. So I know the weather will not stop you guys from coming out and having a good time. Because the first event I went to in Minnesota, it was 3 degrees outside, and it was So you guys don't let the weather stop you, and that's how I used to be too.
I had 2 inches of snow in Atlanta. Atlanta is shut
and
down.
that's it.
The schools are shut down. That's how they did in Carolina. The kids, they would get a flurry, and kids were spitting the night on the school bus. I said, Lord,
Wow.
I sure will. They trying, but especially coming from here, you just got to deal with it. Like Miss Dana was saying, it's the cold, but it's the mess you got to deal with. And I got to say, I didn't miss a white Christmas either. I don't ever miss a not white Christmas. Hey, I can imagine, but I don't need the white Christmas. Are you two going to be joining us in Cedar Rapids from Georgia?
Unfortunately, we both have to work, so we won't be able to make it this time around. But next time, definitely, we're next big event that's in that area. Hopefully, we will get to meet you all in person. So we're gonna like make sure our jobs know ahead of time. This month was so just so many things going on at once, and he's in kind of like law enforcement, so he has training, K9 training, so everything has to be done before the end of the month, and then other little endeavors that we have kind of kept us from coming. But for sure, but it does, even still, just on a virtual level, the people that we have met so far that's going to be there, especially including you all, it's going to be a great event, and I know it's going to be a great turnout. And maybe we'll get to do some live reporting the day of.
I want to do that there, but like from like a red carpet type perspective, like as people come in, people that we recognize and already done interviews with, that would be amazing. But yeah, we have.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Oh, so Michelle just chimed in. May the 25th is the next one for Black Wall Street Day. So maybe we can go ahead and get that situated. In. Yep, and come on down there then. And it'll be warmer. So
yeah.
So as we wrap up, we're down to our last 5 to 7 minutes. First of all, I just want to say thank you all for coming on and having this turn out to be a beautiful show. Our last guest didn't make it. There's no telling what's going on with the weather and everything. So we definitely understand that, and for sure we'll get her on in a future date. But let's everybody just each just give a shout out to whoever and let the people know how they can get in touch with you by website or by social media.
Slinya, me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Well, first and foremost, I want to give kudos to Michelle, Anthony Arrington, for making this happen. Thank you guys for giving us access, giving us the platform. Also want to thank you, LaShawn and Deuce, for hosting us at Shop Black. So looking forward to working closely with you, Dana. Also, it was a great pleasure meeting you, Miss Hazel. I hope to see you in person. I am here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and my website will be showcased. I believe, LaShawn, you will possibly post that website. As far as transportation goes.
I didn't get it. I don't know if you had sent it to me on the private chat or where you had sent it to me. Let me show
private chat. I think I did it on the private chat.
There it is. Got it. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me pull that up for everybody to see.
Okay.
Yes. Well, go ahead.
And so Sarah Shuttle is at your service. We partner with employers and contracted with employers, but we also do small events like wedding and employer retreats. Or if you have anything special that you just want to utilize our expertise and resources for, I am at your service. I'm also a consultant, work with small businesses, established businesses. So I'm always willing to lend an ear and support you and help you navigate grants or access to any resources that are available in the community. So I believe that together we can make a difference. So allow me the opportunity to serve you.
Absolutely. You guys can keep going. I'm trying to pull it up. There's a date and time error. So do you have it on social media by chance?
I don't believe that I have it on my Facebook, but I will go ahead and post it on my Facebook. So if you feel free to look me up on Facebook, add me as a friend. I'll make sure that following today's podcast, I will post that information so that it's readily available as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me pull your profile up so they know how to reach you.
Go ahead, Ms. Dan.
Yes, so you can find Black Iowa News on the web, of course, blackiownews.com. You can email me, Dana@blackiwanews.com. I'm always looking for new advertisers because obviously a newspaper runs on advertising. So if you want to advertise your business, nonprofit, organization, I would love if people would join my email newsletter. You can go to the Facebook page at Black Iowa News and find out how to join the newsletter there. And again, just thank you to all of the organizers. And I really encourage everyone be in Cedar Rapids on January 13th.
All right, Miss Hazel, you go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate this opportunity, and ladies, also to share this podcast with you. It's beautiful to see, and it's inspiring. And thank you to Miss Michelle as well. She has really been active in everything that's going on, and just even including me. And so my name is Hazel Grace, and my business is Ori Ashe Waistbeads. And yes, I will be at MLK Now 2024 on January 13th. I can be reached on all social media levels, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and in each one of those profiles, you will find my link tree to get in contact with me. And I will see everyone January 13th.
We love it. We just wanted to make sure we got Selenia's profile up because I'm having some technical difficulties and I couldn't pull the website, but you can get with her on there. Everybody else, we did display and post all the websites, but let me also, while I have you on here, just so we can make sure it goes out live, post everybody's actual link in the chat so they can copy and paste that from there and not just have it on the screen. Bear with me 1 second, because this is our first time. Like, we just upgraded to Max, y'all. So, you know, most people are savvy when it comes to Mac, but not me. Okay, there's that. I got Black News. And oh, Hazel left. Let me get Hazel on. Hazel's on there. Ori Ashi. And let me just go to her Facebook page. Oh, is it her? Okay, she's popping in. Mm-hmm. Hazel, can you paste that link in there for me so that way I can
So, okay, let me try it again. That's what I was trying to do, yeah. And then I just let myself out. But it's not a tag, so I see the ad's not working. So I just put the business name in the chat. Is that?
Yes, I can use that as well. Let me go ahead and that so that way they can look it up by keyword search.
Okay, cool. Oops. I guess I should have put Ori Ashe. I should have put now that you mentioned the keyword.
Go ahead and do a final thing.
All right, ladies. Well, we're going to go ahead and close out the podcast for this evening. Like I said, good luck with everything at MLK on January 13th. We would love to hear back from you guys in the near future. Thank you for coming on the show once again.
Thank you.
Close out.
No, we just want to make sure you guys know to tune in to Shop Black with us, not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after next. Always the second Tuesday and fourth Tuesday of every month. Michelle coordinates these with our guests every month. So if you are a BFAC member of the BOB Rewards Club, that makes you eligible for this podcast. And we definitely also want to close out and offering those who have been under our viewership. Thank you all so much, first of all, for hanging with us. We've gotten a lot of viewers today. BOBrewards.club, you've been seeing the marquee scroll. You can join us as well as a consumer for $10 a year and also as a member for $25 a year.
All right. And always remember to like, share, and subscribe and spread the word about Shop Black and BOB Rewards Club. Ladies, you all have a great evening, great afternoon. Be blessed.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that wraps it up for today's show. Let me move some of these tickers off of here. What a great show. I mean, that was packed, full of great information. Again, we had a fourth guest, but with the weather, there's no telling. So we will get her on here at a future time, and we look forward to that. So again, thank you all so much for tuning in with us, and we will see you on the 4th Tuesday of this month.
That's right.
Take care.